Hey everybody, and welcome to our newest video. I'm Andy, and with me is Joe. Why don't you introduce yourself, Joe?
Hello, everybody. I am Coach Joe. I'm a transformational results coach. I help bring passion, purpose, and presence to people's lives. If you're ready for that, then let's talk. We're going to delve into a discussion about depression this evening, and hopefully, it gives you a little insight, maybe a different perspective, and hopefully, if you need it, it helps you a whole lot.
Nice, nice. I'm Coach Andy, and I help guys with control issues. Either they don't have control of something, they've lost control of something in their lives, or they want control of something in their lives, or they do control something that they don't want to, or someone maybe that they don't want to. I deal with guys and I help them find control in the right areas and let go of control in the areas they don't want it. So,
Beautiful.
depression. So, what is it around depression you wanted to talk about?
So I put up a post on Facebook a couple days ago that says, "Do you have depression or do you do depression?" And so this triggered a whole lot of different comments. Some people were very appreciative of it; they got it. Other people were like, "Well, I think you should change that to experience." We experience depression. Other people were like, "Well, it's a thing in our head that we have."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you freeze on me?
You froze on me for a second, yeah,
Oh, okay.
but I
What
could
was the
hear you
last
the whole
part you
time.
heard? Oh, okay,
I heard the whole thing.
okay, wonderful. Yeah, so I thought we could talk a little bit about that and delve into more of the actual meat and potato of it.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. So, do you do depression or do you have depression? Is it do you have depression like you might have pneumonia, or do you do
Hmm.
depression like you might cry? Do you do depression like you might go for a run?
Hmm.
Or do you have depression like you might have a cold?
Right.
I like that.
Or, is it a chemical imbalance in the brain? Is it a chemical imbalance in the body? There's a lot of different forms.
Is it curable? Is it maintainable? Can you do something about it? Is it full time? Is it part time? Is it permanent? Whatever. There are all kinds of factors surrounding depression. And I like this conversation and how you brought it up. Do you do depression or do you have depression? And I think both can happen. Some people have it. For some people, I think there is some sort of either genetic or damaged brain, and that brain
Hmm.
isn't capable of not being depressed. The damage in the brain, whether it's
Right.
genetic or happened through some kind of an accident, can cause damage in the brain that causes depression. I believe that exists. And
Absolutely.
some people don't have the chemical problems in their brain, the physical problems in their brain, so they do depression. Some people only have a temporary depression, based on a death of somebody important to them, or the loss of a pet, or the loss of a relationship or a job. Those things can seriously cause depression.
Absolutely.
Um, the and those are more doing depression, typically. And then the other way I wanted to go at this is depression doing to you? Did depression sneak up on you and you're held captive by it?
Right.
Is depression doing you?
Right. Excuse me.
In which case, they all have different solutions, they all have different treatments, and they all have different ways to approach them.
Hmm.
Whether you do it, whether you have it, or whether it's doing you.
Correct.
And yeah, let's dig in. What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, how do we know if we're doing depression or if depression is doing us? Right? How do we know? Well, if we don't have a chemical imbalance, if we don't have some sort of, medical issue that's causing it, right? And we got into this depression at, say, I don't know, 13 or 14 years old, and now we're 34 years old, right? Then we're kind of stuck in this, in my opinion, we're stuck in this state of arrested development. Like we got there, we stayed there, and now we're addicted to that feeling, or we don't know any other feeling. It's like our security blanket to not deal with whatever's underneath those feelings. And because we're not dealing with that, now we're suffering more. And now we're getting more depressed. And the longer we go, the more depressed the actual feelings are getting that we're not dealing with. So it's this whole snowball kind of effect, I guess you could say, of, well, I'm going uphill, but the whole time the snowball's going downhill and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And until we just blast out that snowball, then in my opinion, we're doing depression,
Yeah.
because we can get out of it when we get that awareness that we can get out of it. We can take, all the different medications or alcohol or whatever it is to try and say, oh, I'm okay today, and put a fake smile on my face because I'm high on pills or whatever it is. But take the pills away, and what happens? Well, the ugly feelings are still there. And so that's what I would consider how we know that we're doing depression, or depression is doing us. And you simply just don't have to. But sometimes you need a person, a partner, to help you realize that, because you may not be able to realize it on your own if you're so deep into it.
Well, and that's the key right there is I don't know if I'm doing depression or if depression's doing me. I don't know if I have it or if I'm doing it. When I'm depressed, all I know is I'm depressed.
Right.
I don't know. There is no. How do I know that I haven't had this imbalance? If I've had depression since I was 13 or 14, and I'm an adult now, how do I know I didn't just, I have an imbalance in my head that showed up in puberty, and that's just how I'm going to be from now on. How do I know that?
Right.
A lot of people become depressed as teenagers because of things that happened as teenagers. Because
Yeah.
teenagers have hard lives.
Sure.
Right? The things that we're trying to do as a teenager are hard to do. We don't have the experience to do those things yet.
Right.
So that does cause depression in a lot of kids and a lot of people. And a lot of people never learn to get over that. And they could have.
Right.
But how do we know which ones are which? So I agree with I love that how do you know? You get support.
Mhm.
Whether you have depression or whether it has you, whether you're doing depression or whether it's doing you, whatever the case may be, support helps. Uh, Support can dig into all of the emotions underneath what depression comes from, what depression feeds into, and what depression becomes.
Mhm.
We dig into those emotions, and by digging into those emotions, it's possible to cure depression. Now, not all depression is curable.
Right.
Not all forms of depression are curable. If you do have damage in your head or some sort of a genetic defect, that might not be curable, and sometimes it is.
Correct.
Um, so yeah, I agree with you that finding support,
Yeah.
finding support in a doctor, in a therapist, in a psychiatrist, in a coach, a life coach, an accountability group, a support group. There's all
Mhm.
kinds of ways to get support.
Right.
I like, and I'm sure you feel much the same. We've discussed this before. We like life coaches because we tend to focus on curing. We tend to focus on making things better, clearing the damage in the first place. Now, again, like I've already said, that isn't always possible. And when
Right.
it is possible, we can do it. Coaches can do it.
Yeah, and I think there's one key question too. If you don't have a genetic defect, if you don't have a chemical imbalance, something like that, you got to ask yourself, well, when did I decide I was depressed, or who decided for me that I was depressed? And you have to ask those kinds of questions and answer them, or you need somebody who's going to ask those questions for you, because maybe you never thought of those questions, and that can
Yeah.
take you down a whole.
And having had depression, having lived most of my life in depression, I would have said I never did decide. It happened to me. I was victimized by it. It took
Right.
hold of me. I
Mhm.
didn't have a choice. Nobody told me I had depression. I just couldn't come out of this.
Right.
And after I went to enough doctors, they called it depression.
Right.
And they did tell me I had a chemical imbalance until I cured
Mhm.
it. And then they're like,
What
oh,
was
well,
the
your
last one?
chemical imbalance went away. Yeah, that's not how it works. So, whether or not we have a chemical imbalance or genetic defect or some kind of damage, we don't always know. And even if a doctor tells us that, we can still sometimes get better.
Right. Because sometimes I guarantee you, and I'm not saying don't take your depression meds, but for me, when I stopped taking the depression meds, that's when I got better or started to get better.
Right.
When I would take them, I'd be very, very forgetful. I would get dry mouth. I'd wake up with like hangover symptoms.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how I got back and forth to work. I mean, it was just
Right.
kind of crazy.
Right.
So for me, once I started getting off those and I started doing the organic work and the inner work and all those other things, a whole new world opened up.
Right.
Because
And
sometimes, go ahead.
I've experienced, I'm going to say probably a dozen different people who stopped the drugs
Hmm.
and ended up suicidal.
Yeah, it works both ways. You have to be careful. Absolutely. Yeah,
I would say don't go off the drugs without some guidance,
correct.
without some authorization and guidance from your doctor or from
Yes,
some person who's got experience and training with these kinds of things.
absolutely. You want to be very careful.
You do. I don't want to suggest we stop taking drugs, but at the same time, sometimes when we have, say, we took the drugs for a while,
Hmm.
we took our medication, we took our medicine that was prescribed to us. And while we were on the medication, we've done a little bit of work on, managing our depression and figuring out our lives and working on some of those underneath emotions. And we've really done some of the work. We just didn't know it because we're on the meds. So we're still acting depressed. We're still choosing depression. And yet we've been doing the work to get out of depression, and the drugs are still there. So, and because the drugs are still acting on us, we still feel depressed.
Hmm.
So sometimes the with the assistance of a medical professional, it's helpful to try a different method. And
Yeah,
don't do so on your own. I promise you, it won't go good.
yeah. I
The
agree
reason the reason I
100%.
say the reason I say that is because most of the people that I know who take drugs, their number one goal is to stop taking the drugs, and they have not done any other work
Right.
on the underneath feelings. All they want to do is get rid of the drugs because they make me feel groggy and they make me forgetful and they make me this. They give me dry mouth and they give me all these side effects, and I don't want those side effects. Yeah, but the side effects of not taking them is you die. You
Right.
kill yourself. That isn't a good side effect either.
Well, first of all, I'm not pro. I mean, I'm living proof that some people can do it.
Yes.
But I'm not saying that everyone should do it. I mean, you
Right.
definitely have to speak with your doctor. You definitely have to know that,
Right.
okay, if you're going to do this, it's a slow process. It's not just you throw it in the garbage and you walk away or whatever.
Right.
You want to be sensible. You want to be responsible, because you don't know what the after effects might be. Um, and so you want to be very mindful of that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. But yeah, absolutely. Check with your doctor. Go slow. There's no race,
There's a
right?
method to
Not a
doing it.
race.
There's a way
There's
to
a
do it.
method. There's a method. Yeah. And
There's a way
so
to do
you want to
it. Yeah.
be responsible. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly that, and exactly that. And so I don't want to suggest that you should stop doing the drugs. That's your answer,
Right.
and it is for some people. Some people, the
Right.
answer is to work on the underneath shit that was causing your depression, and
Hmm.
then work on getting off the drugs because you might not need them anymore. But
Right.
make sure you have assistance and guidance of a professional and somebody to guide you through all the emotional stuff as you do it.
Right. Mm.
This isn't things you can do on your own.
No.
Yeah, that's I wanted to clarify that. Yeah,
Yeah.
depression does in those cases. That's how you do depression. You do depression by choosing your own path. You do depression by deciding, I know better than all the doctors, and I'm just going to stop my drugs, or I'm just going to take drugs, or I'm just going to do this, or I'm just going to drink, or I'm just going to do that. That's how you do depression. Because when you do depression that way, all it does is make things worse.
Right.
The cure for depression is connection.
Yes.
Connection with a professional, connection with a doctor, connection with a coach, connection with your friends and family, connection with people who care, connection with someone who can help. Connection is the cure for depression.
And connection with yourself.
Yes.
And that's where I think a lot of people who are depressed, they forget about that, right? You got to connect with yourself, because often we're not, and we have to, when we've been depressed or gone through it, okay, Joe's sitting here, but the other Joe is like over there somewhere, and I'm avoiding him, and I don't want to deal with him. Right. So I'm just going to leave him over there in the corner and walk away and do my own thing. And that just adds to the doing the depression pile.
Yeah, it does.
You want to be complete.
You want to be complete, and especially if we've been in depression or in addiction or in some kind of crisis, or especially when we've been hit by life's real bad shit, we often need support to reconnect with ourselves. We often need some way. For example, I reconnected myself by getting a coach. Some people reconnect with themselves by watching some YouTube videos from somebody they respect. Some people reconnect with themselves by talking with some friends and family. Some people reconnect with themselves through like there's 1,000 different ways to reconnect with yourself and with your community and with your family. And those things are how you gain that connection and get over your depression. Don't try doing those things before you decide you're done with the cure for connection, or you're done with the maintenance methods. Don't stop meditating. Don't stop the drugs. Don't stop the going to the doctor. Don't stop the therapy sessions. Don't stop all of that stuff until you've managed to find some kind of connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you may never stop those things.
Yeah, I mean it's a slow dance.
It is a slow dance.
It's a slow dance. I think that's the best way to describe it, because one of the other depressive states is, okay, I'm really high and I feel really good right now, right? And then after that high of 2 or 3 days or a couple of weeks, now you're in the low lows. Like, well, what's wrong with me? I was just happy 2 weeks ago, and now I'm over here and I'm wanting to end myself or whatever it is you're feeling. Well, you got to be balanced. It's got to be a nice little dance.
How do you get to the balance?
Well, for me, getting to the balance was, like you said, getting support, right? Going out and reaching out to people that maybe you feel uncomfortable reaching out to, like a therapist, a counselor, a coach, a doctor, whomever it is that you're avoiding because of your fear or your embarrassment or your pride or whatever, is probably exactly who you need to go and see, because all those answers are on the other side of your fears. Right? Oh, I fear going to the doctor. I fear going here. I fear going there. They're not going to really help me. We lie to ourselves, or we say we don't need it. We can get over it on ourselves. And then we are 5 years later telling ourselves the exact same bullshit. You got to wipe out the bullshit and go to the real shit and go, okay, time for me to get real with myself. Time for me to get help and just go.
Get help.
Mm-hmm.
Get help. Sometimes it's the hardest thing for us to do is to ask for help.
Yep.
Right. Sometimes it's the hardest thing. I remember when I first started coaching, I remember there was a guy I was helping, and when I offered coaching for free, there was a few people that volunteered to let me coach them for free in a way for them to help me get my coaching business off the ground, basically to practice coaching and become a better coach. Not so much because they wanted a coach or because they wanted to be coached or they wanted help with anything or they wanted this or they wanted that. They wanted to help me. So they weren't asking for help or volunteering to take help. They were volunteering to be a guinea pig so I could figure out how to give help. And it's a different mindset. They weren't actually, when it came time to me actually helping them, none of them actually wanted help.
Right.
right? They just wanted to be there for me to practice on.
Yep.
So it when you're asking, when you ask for help, make sure that you're asking because you want to do something about your life.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're asking someone you think can help because you think they can help. Not because you want to, look better for your girlfriend because I'm going to therapy because she told me she'd leave me if I didn't go to therapy. Well, I'll go to therapy. Don't do it for that reason. If that's the case, then let her leave. Because if she's not going to appreciate for who you are anyway, she's not going to appreciate who you become.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to go to therapy for you, because if you go for somebody else, you're just not going to get as much out of it as you should.
Right.
You might get something.
And I heard that.
But...
I heard that for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I didn't go, because I didn't want to go for me. And eventually, the last 5 years I did go, I went for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought, I can't lose this. I have to go, or she's going to leave. I have to go, or I'm going to lose my family, or I have to go, or I'm going to lose this identity, or I have to go, or I'm going to lose this or lose that. So I went, and it didn't help. So hearing that if you have to go for yourself isn't enough. Well, I have to know why. Why do I have to go for myself?
Right.
What's the danger of doing it for someone else?
Right.
If my wife says go for counseling, I'm going to leave. What's the danger of doing that?
Resentment.
Is it?
That's
I'm not going to resent my wife. If I go to counseling and I get better, I'm not going to resent my wife for that.
No, but you might resent that she caused you to go, right? And now you're dealing with all these feelings. And I know somebody this has happened to, I say this, is, okay, I'm going to go to therapy for you, right? So he goes through the whole thing. And because she didn't like the results he was getting, all these different arguments ensued that built resentment and built this and that and the other. Because in my personal opinion, when he started going to therapy, they really should have been in like a couples therapy, because now it became, okay, just this negative thing when it was supposed to be this positive thing. Right. He's getting results. He's getting better. He's getting more confident. He's standing up for himself. And now she doesn't like that. He's changed. He's become a different person.
Right.
And so
that's what I'm getting at. I go to therapy because my wife asked me to go to therapy, and I'm getting better.
Right.
Why is that a problem?
Yeah. Why is that a problem? Right. Because
I'm going because she asked me to, and I'm getting better. So why is that a problem? What's the problem?
So the problem is you're starting to change. You're starting to evolve, right? You're getting better. They're getting scared, I think, might be the thing, right?
Well, whatever the thing is, we don't know what's in their head. We don't know what's
we have no idea. So it could be a million different things. So it's like, well, were you just going to leave me in the first place? And this is a way for you to plan while I'm gone? There's a whole different, there's 100 wheels that can spin.
And so what I'm getting at is when people said that to me, when I was in depression, and people said, if you're going to go get help, it needs to be for you. I'm like, well, I don't want it. So I'm not going to go.
Right.
And eventually I went. I still didn't want it, but I went because if I didn't, she'd leave.
Right.
And I got better. And I didn't have any resentment towards her.
Right.
She left anyway.
Right.
So that's what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is sometimes saying, do it for yourself, not for them, isn't enough.
Right.
Because I got to know why. What's the danger? If I do it for myself, or if I do it for them and not me, what's the danger?
What do you think it is?
For me, the danger was I'm going to get better, and she's still not going to like who I am. I'm going to get better, and my mom or my dad still isn't going to like how I got better. Like you said, he did get better, and she didn't like him.
Right.
She didn't like the results.
Yeah.
If you do it for somebody else, you're trying to get their results. And when you go to therapy or coaching or someone else, you're not going to get their results. You're going to get yours. Exactly. So the danger is you're trying to give them something you can't give them.
Right.
That's what the danger is. When
Yep.
when we go to therapy or to coaching or to get help, when we ask for help from anybody, if we do it for somebody else because somebody else told us to go get help or I'm going to leave, they're going to leave anyway.
Yep.
Because, and they're not looking for an excuse to leave. They're not ready to leave. They're not 1 foot out the door. All those other expressions that we say, that's not it. They actually want you to get help so that they can stay. They want to stay.
Yeah.
But when you go get help, it's not going to give them the results that they're looking for. The only way they're going to get the results they're looking for is if they're the one who go gets help.
Yep. 100%.
So if somebody wants you to go get help, go get help. But don't do it because they asked you to. Do it because you want help. If you don't want help, don't go get it.
Right.
Because if you go get help, you're just going to end up losing everything anyway. And when you go get help, you'll just be okay with it when you do.
Right.
You'll still lose everything. You'll just learn how to be okay with it. Help you, the therapist or the coach or whoever you go to will help you be okay with it when you lose everything.
Yeah.
But you're still going to lose everything. Right. My wife still left. My kids still don't talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I still don't have all those things, but I found happiness. So that's what I'm getting at. When we're talking about depression, and when you get help, you want to get help because you want it. Because if you don't want it, you're never going to get the results you're looking for. If you do it for somebody else, you're never going to get the results they're looking for. The only way you're going to get what you're looking for is if you go because you're looking for something.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to a drug addiction center because somebody told you you better quit doing drugs or you're going to be fired or I'm going to leave or something, but you don't want to quit drugs, you're going to come out of that addiction center and go back on drugs and hope that they don't find out. Right? And that isn't your solution. That isn't what you're looking for. And that's how you ask for help for depression or anything else. When it comes to depression, you're either doing depression and can get help, or it's doing you and you don't know that you can get help, or you have it and it's not going away. And usually, I don't think we know the difference. I don't think we can know the difference without help, without support. I think the only way for us to find out the difference is to get support.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole thing too, about everybody gets depressed at some point over something.
Yes.
And so it's not like it's not okay. It's okay to get depressed. It's okay to go there. It's not okay to stay there if you're able to come out of it. If you're choosing to stay in it, or
how long is okay?
or you
say my girlfriend of 5 years
Well,
broke
I mean,
up with me, how long is okay?
yeah, I mean that's going to vary per individual, right? But if this has been going on for, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, then I say, okay, that's time to get some help, you know. Or it might be sooner. Like I said, it's going to be very before. I was married for 20 years, right? I got divorced, and people expected me to be down and depressed and sad and this and that and the other. And of course I was upset about it, right? But I asked myself the question, I go, okay, I'm 40 years old. I got two choices here. I can wallow in my self-pity and be depressed, or I can make the choice to look at this as an opportunity to move forward, to change my life and do things that I was unable to do under the scope of this relationship over the past 20 years. And so I think it's very important, the story you tell yourself, the questions you ask, and what you focus on, because whatever you are focusing on, that's what you're going to feel.
Yes.
So
you're going to get the results that you give yourself by focusing on the stories you tell yourself.
Yeah.
That internal talk is where it all comes from. If I say my life's depressing, I'm going to be depressed. If I say I get depressed sometimes, but I can come out of it, I'm going to be depressed sometimes, but I'm going to come out of it. If I say I have depression, I'm never going to get rid of it. If I'm doing depression for now, then someday I'll choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it is about the stories we tell ourselves. And it's important because most people don't know you can tell a different story.
Right.
And yet that is the essence of what one of the things that we help do, that we help people do, is we help people tell themselves a different story.
Absolutely.
When I started telling myself a different story about depression, I'm like, no, actually, I'm not being depressed. I'm simply playing video games for 3 weeks in a row. How's that a problem? I like playing video games. That's not depression. That's just joy. That's just having fun.
Right.
I'm not going to work. I'm not doing anything, but still, it's like having a 3-week vacation. And then I go back to part-time work when I'm done.
Yeah. And it's funny how we could place judgments on that. Oh, he's just playing video games. He must be depressed.
Yeah.
But you're in a joyful world where you're having a great time. And we're going, oh, he's depressed. Well, how do we have a right to say that? We don't know. We don't know what's going on with the individual across the screen or in the other room or whatever, unless they've shared it with us and told us.
And even then, I wouldn't necessarily qualify it because we don't even know ourselves most of the time.
Right. Absolutely.
The judgments we're using to judge ourselves are the judgments that society and our parents have given us.
Right.
And that might not always be true.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we do as coaches is we can help people find new stories that actually give them the feelings they want without changing much at all about their actions. I still don't do much every day in forwarding my business, in building my business, in gaining new clients. I don't do much. I do more than I used to, quite a bit more than I used to, but it's still barely an hour a day if we're lucky. However, I do spend between 3 and 5 hours a day on the phone, on video calls, with clients, with other coaches, with colleagues, with training. And like, I'm spending way more time in my business, just not very much time forwarding my business, not very much time building my business. It's building naturally because I'm figuring out, or have figured out, how to build my business in a way that matches me. I still spend hours every day playing video games or watching Netflix. I still sleep when I want to sleep, eat when I want to eat, go where I want to go. The only difference is I have scheduled phone calls now that I'm on every day. And I do those. I show up for those. I'm never late for those. I'm always active, always present, just like I am on this video with you.
Yeah.
And that isn't depression.
Nope.
And I used to call it depression, but it isn't. I'm happy.
But that's the story you used to tell yourself, right? But now you have a new story. You have a new meaning, right? And it's probably
the activities in my life haven't changed almost at all.
Right.
Besides the few extra phone calls every day, I haven't actually changed much of the activities in my life. I just told myself a different story about what those activities are.
Right. So bottom line, the change isn't on the outside. The change is on the inside.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what you're doing out here.
Yeah.
But what you're doing here, that's what matters.
Think you're doing.
Yeah.
What you value you're doing, what you believe you're doing, the value you put on it, why you're doing it, what's the purpose of it, what's the joy in it.
Yes.
What's all of the internal stuff. What feelings does it cause?
Right.
Right. And different stories can change those feelings.
Yep. And
I love my life.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're watching this video, you're looking at two guys who had different types of depression, who are both no longer in that depression. Right. And you go, well, yeah, cured. And so if you're watching this, oh, I can't get cured. That doesn't happen. Blah, blah, blah. No one cares. No one knows my struggle. Someone knows your struggle. You just got to find that right person. It could be Andy. It could be me. It could be someone totally different. But someone out there is lined up to help you, to support you, who has experiences that you've had.
That or at least can relate to yours.
Or can relate and can help you get to that other side.
Yes.
You just got to reach out.
Just got to reach out. And obviously, if you want to reach out to us, we're here. We're on this channel. Drop us a line. We'll answer best we can. I mean, we are still just people, just guys. We're not like superhumans, so we can't like reach through the computer and answer your questions before you ever ask them. But if you do comment or leave us an email or something like that, we will get back to you. I
Yeah,
promise.
absolutely. And one thing I wanted to bring up too, we were talking about, see a therapist, a counselor, a doctor, whomever, a coach, right? I've seen it so many times on Facebook and other places. Well, I can't afford to get help. Stop lying to yourself. There's two guys right here who hop on the phone with you for an hour or two just to help you. So don't feel like money is.
Over half of my clients are free clients.
Yep. So I just
Now,
want to throw.
I don't plan to keep that as half, but I do plan to keep at least 5 slots open for the rest of my life, for the rest of my career. At least 5 slots open for free clients.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as can't afford free.
Right.
Do you want help or not?
Right. And if you're avoiding.
And if you can afford to pay for it, then help me pay for those who can't.
Right. Yeah. And if you're avoiding free because you think it's too good to be true, it's not too good to be true.
If you think it's too good to be true, simply give us a call.
Yeah. Call us.
Give us a call. We won't charge you for our call.
We're regular guys. I've got, 5 kids on the other side of my garage door, beautiful wife in there, 3 dogs and 2 cats. So
yeah, I dumped off the dogs and the cats, and the wife and kids left. So
yeah, so you got that. But even with all that going on, right, I will still do free calls. Why will I do that? Because I actually give a damn about people more than I do the money. Now, that being said, like you said, this is a business. So if you can support us, then do that.
We like that. We're not looking to become trillionaires. I mean, well, most of us aren't, but But if you're a trillionaire and you want to share a few billions, then we won't say no to that either.
You're right, exactly. We're not going to be greedy though either.
Right.
So but the bottom line, somebody helped us. That's why we're here now.
Exactly.
And if we don't pay that forward, then it's just put a bad energy within us.
Yeah.
So you will serve us by helping us avoid that bad energy. We will serve you by helping you get a more positive energy.
Let's do that. Let's spread the positive. Spread the healing. Let's make us better men.
Yes.
All of us.
Absolutely.
Wonderful conversation, Joe. I think it's probably time for us to shut this one down.
I agree.
Thank you for getting on this conversation, for the topic, and for all of the wonderful conversations we have.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. If you like the video, obviously like it. Give us a like, subscribe, and we'd like to hear from you. Let us know what you think. Bye-bye, everybody.